Alrighty, so starting in a comfortable seated position, a little crisscross applesauce, if you will. Just move around a little bit, close our eyes, and just kind of feel how our body is doing right now. And a big inhale, and we'll settle in, find some stillness. Big, deep breaths in through our nose, and then we'll exhale out from our mouths. Just feel our bodies begin to relax. Our sitting bones are rooting into our mats. And we're just letting go of any expectations we may have right now. Expectations of our practice or of ourselves. And then we'll inhale, lift our hands up high up to the sky. And then exhale, we'll just come forward into a little fold, just round in the spine, lower the chest. And then we'll slowly walk those hands backwards, roll our way up. Inhale, hands come up high. And then exhale, we'll bring them over to the right so we can let that right hand find the floor. Left hand reaches up and over, lengthening from this left hip that's pressing down into our mats, reaching all the way up to our fingers and past, opening up that side body. And then inhale, back up to the top, both hands reaching for the sky. Wiggle the fingers. And then exhale, we'll reach over with that right hand to the left. Left hand can find our mat. And then inhale, back up to the top. And then exhale, let's do another forward fold. Hands come forward. Maybe we keep our back a little bit more straight this time. Couple big deep inhales here, followed by a full exhale. And then we'll continue to walk those fingers forward. We'll roll over our shins and we'll come up onto our hands and our knees into a tabletop. Hands are underneath of our shoulders, fingers are wide, knees are underneath of our hips. And then toes can be tucked or they can be soft behind us. It is our choice. Nice long spine here, and then exhale, let's round the spine. We'll tuck our chin, we'll tuck our tail. We'll lift that spine up to the sky for a cat. And then inhale, we'll arch the back, drop the tummy, we'll lift the heart into our cow. And then exhale into our cat. And inhale, cow. And moving with our breath, we're just going to flow with these cats and cows, moving that spine around, getting it nice and soft. And let's do one more of each. Exhaling, rounding in that spine. Inhaling, little arch. And then we'll find ourselves back in a neutral spine. Think about a yardstick going along our backs, making sure that there's no real space where that yardstick or that imaginary yardstick would be resting. Breathing into our tummies and all around in this low part of our torso, keeping that spine nice and supported, pressing into those hands, opening the shoulder blades behind us. And then when we're ready, inhaling, right hand will come out and the left foot will go back, turning the toes down to face the floor so that that left hip stays even with the right, reaching with the fingers, pressing with the heel. And exhale back down with those limbs, and we'll inhale, left hand will come out and the right foot will go back. And lowering back down. Again, we're going to do that one more time each side. So inhale, right hand, left foot, lengthening all the way from our fingertip to our heel. Active all around our torso. As we breathe, our ribs are expanding in all directions. Exhale back down to our mats. And then other side, last time, left hand, right foot. This seems like a very simple little exercise, but it's so important to get those back muscles firing and working real hard. And exhale down. Let's do a cat and a cow, rounding on that exhale. And inhale, we arch back to that neutral spine. And then we'll just bring those hips back to our heels, arms come out in front of us, and we'll lower our chest down into child's pose. Good, and then we'll come back up to our tabletop. Let's lift up the right hand up to the sky. Little twist here. Whew. And then exhale, let's thread it through and just reach. We're not going to settle in quite yet. We're just going to go back and forth with our breath. So inhale, back up. And then exhale, we'll reach through. And inhale up. And exhale through. Inhale up. And this time, exhale all the way through. We'll lower the shoulder down. We'll rest our head on the mat. Reaching with those right fingers. And now the left hand can stay on the mat where it is. It can come out in front and begin to walk around to the right to open up those shoulders. Keeping the hips over our knees. And then we'll slowly unwind. And we'll find ourselves back in child's pose. Take a full breath here. And then when we're ready, we'll come back up to our tabletop. Neutral spine, nice strong lower back. Inhale, we'll lift up the left hand, opening up to the sky. And then exhale, reaching through. And inhale up. And exhale through. It's moving so gently as we work with our breath. And just get that spine a-moving some more. Inhale up. Exhale through. One more time. Inhale up. And now this time, as we exhale through, we'll keep reaching as far as we can. We'll lower the shoulder and the head down to our mat. And then shift those hips over the top of the knees. Let's do one more breath here. And then unwinding back to child's pose. All right, keeping our hands out in front of us, we'll begin to press all of those fingers down into the mat and pull the shoulders away from the ears. Again, nice and strong shoulder girdle, breathing into our tummy. We should feel that tummy pressing into our thighs as it's nice and active. And now we'll tuck those toes underneath of our butts. And then when we're ready, nice long spine as we lift the hips up toward the sky, bending at the knees, pedaling the feet. So we wiggle our way into our downward facing dog. And then inhale, both heels come up to the sky, onto our tippy toes. Let's pull those shoulders away from the wrists, lifting the hips up to the sky, and then slowly we'll just begin to lower those heels toward our mats. They may not go all the way down, and that is totally fine. We're really working on keeping the spine straight and strong. Our core is working hard, and our knees can stay bended just a little bit if that's what it takes to get all of the other goals achieved. Good, and now let's slowly walk those hands backwards towards our feet. Release our shoulders and our head and just hang in a forward fold. Bending the knees really deeply, rounding in the spine, and slow inhale as we roll and rise all the way up to standing, pulling the shoulders back. The chin should be the last thing to lift, pressing into the floor with our feet, lifting from the top of our head, reaching for the floor with our fingers, lifting our chest. Good. Inhale, hands come up high. And now exhale, slightly bend in the knees, hinging at the hips, folding forward. Let's bend those knees so that our hands find the floor, and we'll walk our way out to a downward facing dog. Good. Inhale, let's come forward into a plank. Plank can be on our toes or they can be on our knees. Nice long spine, proud chest. Exhale, let's shift that weight forward so the chest goes forward, the elbows stay back by our ribs, and we lower ourselves down onto our bellies. Hands are underneath of our shoulders, feet are soft. From here, when we inhale, we're going to bring the chest forward again and pull our shoulders back and lift the chest using those back muscles. Just a tiny bit of pressure into our hands for baby cobra. Exhale, let's lower that chest down. We'll tuck the toes and press back for our downward facing dog. Good. Let's do that again. Inhale forward into our plank. Exhale, we'll lower down. Soften the feet. Inhale, chest comes forward and then up, lifting nice and high. And then lowering back down, tucking the toes, pressing into the hands, downward facing dog. Let's walk those hands back to our feet. Into our fold. And now inhale to a flat back. Long legs, hands can find the shins or the floor for half lift. Exhale, folding forward, bending the knees. Inhale, rise and reach up to the sky. And now exhale, let's bring those knees and thighs together. Big circles with our arms sitting down into our chair. Inhaling up. And exhale, let's fold forward. Inhale to a flat back, long legs. Exhale, we fold. Hands find the floor. We'll walk our way out to a downward facing dog. Let's lift up that right leg. Press it back behind us, much like our spinal balance. We want to turn that right hip to stay even with our left, toes pointing down to the ground. And now we'll kick ourselves in the bum, bring the knee into our chest, and step forward into our lunge. And much like our plank, our lunge can be on our toe or it can be on our knee. And it can change throughout our practice, and that's totally okay. Good. Let's bring our fingers right in front of our toes. We're going to press into that right foot, shifting our weight forward so that we can lift the left leg back behind us for a 3-point balance. Good. Gently, we'll bend that right knee again, come back to our lunge. Find that balance and we'll lift our hands up high. Good. Let's open up Warrior Two. Dropping that left heel back behind us. Bending the right knee, reaching with our fingers in opposite directions. Sinking down into that lunge, moving those thighs away from each other. Good. Let's cartwheel those hands back down to our mats. Stepping back, downward facing dog. Inhale forward into our plank. Exhale, we'll lower down. And now we have a choice. We always have a choice. But we can do our baby cobra or we can come up to upward facing dog. Let's tuck those toes, press back to our down dog. And we'll lift up the left leg. Three-legged dog. We'll kick ourselves in the bum, bring that knee into our chest, stepping forward into our lunge. Fingers find a spot right in front of those toes, shifting the weight forward to lift up the right leg back behind us in a three-point balance. Good. Gently, we'll bend that left knee, lower back down to our lunge, and then lift our hands up high. Good. And now let's turn that right heel down to our mats, open our hips to the right as we find our way into Warrior Two. Good. Cartwheeling those hands back down. Downward facing dog. Inhale forward. Exhale, we'll lower down. Inhale up to our choice of back bend. Tuck the toes, lift the hips, press back for downward facing dog. Walk those hands back to our forward fold. Inhale to a flat back. Exhale, we fold. Bend the knees. Roll our way up, reaching high with those fingers. And then exhale down into our chair. Good. Inhaling up. Exhale, let's fold forward, hinging at the hips, lowering that chest. Good. From here, let's bend our knees so that our hands can find the floor comfortably. We're going to keep our right hand on the floor. We're going to bend the right knee really, really, really deeply, and then begin to straighten this left leg, and we'll lift the left hand up to the sky. And exhale, we'll come back down. Bending both knees, fold forward. Inhale to a flat back. Exhale, we'll fold, bend the knees, and we'll work over to the other side. So left hand will stay on the floor. We'll bend that left knee. We'll lengthen in the right side. So lengthen that right leg. Lift the right hand. And slowly we'll come back down to our fold, release our hands, wiggle the fingers if we need. Inhale, looking forward to a flat back. Exhale, we fold, hands find the floor. Let's walk our way forward into our downward facing dog. Good, lifting the right leg. Let's step forward into our lunge. Sink down into that lunge. Left hand will stay on the floor. Right hand comes up to the sky. Little twist here. And back down. And now coming on up, high lunge. Opening up, warrior two. Bend that right knee, lengthen in the left. Keeping our shoulders over our hips. We tend to want to reach, not quite yet. Right here. From here, keeping everything below the equator. Nice and sturdy. Right hand comes up, left hand will find that left thigh for reverse warrior. Good. And then back to our warrior two. Now let's lengthen that right leg. We'll sass the hips back behind us towards the left. Reaching forward this time with those fingers. Reach, 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 reach. Opening up along those ribs. When we can't reach anymore, we only drop the arm as we find our way into triangle. Keep sassing those hips back, lifting the ribs, lengthening in our back. Good. And then both hands come down to the floor, bending that right knee. Let's come up to a 3-point balance again. Lowering that left leg. Let's step back, downward facing dog. Inhale forward. Exhale, we'll lower down. Inhale to our back bend. Tuck those toes, press ourselves back to our downward facing dog. Good, let's lift up the left leg. Stepping forward into that lunge. Little spinal twist here, right hand stays on the floor, left hand comes up. And slowly we'll come back down to our lunge, find our balance, hands come up high. And then we'll open up warrior two on this side. So bending that left knee, turning the right heel. And then reverse warrior, left hand comes up to the sky, right hand can release and come down to the thigh or just into air below us. And then back to our warrior two. And now setting ourselves up for triangle, lengthening that left leg, sassing the hips far, far, far back behind us, reaching forward. So we've got a little hinge in that hip again. Reaching, 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 and then we'll lower that left hand, raise the right. Good, bending that left knee, hands come back down to the floor. Let's lift up that right foot for 3-point balance. Good, and now lowering back down to our lunge, stepping back downward facing dog. Let's flow through our vinyasa again. Inhale forward to our plank. Let's hold our plank for 2 breaths. Nice strong plank. And then lower, lower, lower down. And then inhale, upward facing dog. Tuck those toes. Press ourselves back to our downward facing dog. Good, let's lift up the right leg and we'll step forward into our lunge. Press into that foot, 3-point balance here. I'm gonna turn a little bit. From here, let's engage that core. We're gonna soften this right knee ever so slightly and begin to lift the chest. We'll bend the knee and bring it into our chest, toward our chest. Hands can come to our hearts. Good, strong balance here. Finding a spot in front of us that we can't reach and it is not moving. Good. And now let's see if we can open up that hip a little bit wider, and we'll place our foot onto our right leg so it can be onto the ankle or the shin or all the way up to the thigh. Please try not to put your foot right directly on that knee. And now think about pressing your foot into the leg, and then the leg presses back into the foot. Lengthen all the way up through our bodies. Breathing. If we're happy here, we stay here. If we would like to give our tree branches, we can bring our hands up over our heads, little jazz hands, open wide fingers. Good. And then slowly we'll bring those hands back down to our hearts. Gently release that foot. And then hinging forward, we'll step back into our 3-point balance. I'm gonna hop around my mat and find a good spot. Stepping back for our lunge, stepping back for our downward facing dog. Pedal the legs. Wiggle in those hips. Good. And then we'll lift up that left leg. Step forward into our lunge. Find our 3-point balance from here. And then begin as we soften that knee just ever so slightly so that we can begin to lift our chest up. Hands can come to our hearts. We bring that knee forward. We take our time and set ourselves up for tree on this side. When we're ready, we'll open up the right knee to the right. Find our spot here. And if we would like, we can bring those hands up and give our tree branches. Sometimes it gets windy in our space and our tree may fall down, but these are magical trees and they can come back up. And all is well. Good. Let's slowly bring those hands back down to our hearts. Moving deliberately, we'll release that right leg. Reverse ourselves back to our 3-point balance. And now just from here, we're just going to lower that right leg down to meet the left, and we'll be in our forward fold. Feel free to take a little wiggle break here. We need to pedal our legs, wiggle our toes. And now let's bend our knees. Our fingers can find the floor, and we'll walk our feet heel, toe, a little bit wider than our hips, pointing those toes out, and we're just going to lower ourselves down into a low malasana squat. Hands come back to our hearts. Elbows are inside of our knees. Lift our heart, we'll drop our butt. This pose is great to do throughout our day. If we're having troubles on a certain day, up against the wall is really great because we can use the support of the wall to help us stay balanced. Or finding a block or a strong book to put underneath of our butt is also very, very helpful on those days where our body may not be cooperating nearly as well as we would like. Good. And then we'll lower those hands down onto our mats. We'll lower the knees. We'll soften the feet underneath of us, and we'll come down to a child's pose. Good. And then from here, keeping our butts low and over our heels, we'll walk our hands backwards so that we come to a kneeling situation. And now begin to tuck that tail underneath of us. Just a little bit further, you'll feel some relief in our low back. Pull those shoulders back, and we're just going to let our hands find a spot behind us. Begin to sink down into those palms. Lift the heart. You can release the head. Once we're nice and sturdy here, we begin to tuck that tail even further until it begins to rise up off of our heels, lifting up off of our heels nice and high into a modified camel. And lowering back down to our heels. We'll lift the hands, and we can come back to our child's pose. Let's swish those feet over to one side, and we'll come to our bottoms, bringing those feet out in front of us. And let's open the knees wide. We'll put those feet together in a bound angle, and we'll find a spot with our feet relatively close to our bodies. We'll hold on to the toes or to the ankles or feet. Sit ourselves up nice and tall, and even close our eyes so that we can use that breath to let go in our hips. Let gravity help those knees come down toward the ground. There's no need to force it or fight. People get scared and they tense up. This is a great time to just relax and let those hips release. If we're happy here, we stay here. If we would like, we can bring our chests forward a little bit. And we'll slowly raise our chests up. We'll place those feet back down onto our mats, bringing the knees together. We'll roll up into our little ball, and we'll rock onto our backs. And give ourselves a little massage going forward and backward, or even side to side if that's what we need. Always listening to our body. And then hugging those knees tight into our bodies, bringing our chin in there, rolling up nice and tight into our little egg. We'll bring both hands to our right shin, hug that leg nice and tight. Left leg can reach up to the sky, and then slowly we'll lower it down to our mats. And relax our head and our shoulders down, still hugging that right knee into our body. And now we'll release that right leg and guide it over to the left for a little spinal twist here. Our arms can go out to the sides, or this left hand can just barely touch the right knee. Good. And then we'll slowly unwind. Hug that right knee back into our chest. And now we'll open it up and lower it down onto our mats into like a tree formation here. So the right foot comes in to the left thigh. We'll just take 2 big breaths here. Inhale. And then just exhale completely. Feel those hips release a little bit. And then we'll roll back up into our egg. Both knees coming into our chest. And then hugging that left leg nice and tight into our chest. Right leg reaches up to the sky, and then slowly we'll lower it down. Our chest, or our shoulders and our back will find the floor. Good, let's release that left knee and we'll guide it over to the right for a little spinal twist here. Again, arms can come out to the sides, or we can place that right hand on top of the left knee and just continue to help the knee over. And now let's unwind. We'll bring the left knee into our chest again, hugging it tight. And then exhale, we'll allow it to come down. Foot goes to the inside of that right thigh. The knee opens wide, resting toward the floor. And then we'll come back into our little egg. Both knees in our chest, holding tightly, tucking our chin. And now we can hold behind our calves or our knees, or if we can reach our toes, let's bring those feet up to the sky, flexing the feet, nice long legs here. If it's tough to have long legs, supporting our legs behind and then slightly bending the knees and hinging at the hips, keeping that tailbone down toward the mat. And then bending the knees nice and wide, we'll hold on to the outside of our feet. Elbows are inside of our knees. We'll relax our way into dead bug or happy baby. Releasing the legs. Back to our egg one last time. Big, deep inhale here. And then exhale into our Shavasana. Legs can come down to the ground. Our arms are gently placed to our sides. We close our eyes. And we use these next couple of breaths to just relax and give ourselves permission to just be for a few minutes. No expectations. No ulterior motives. Just be still. We begin to deepen our breath. We slowly wiggle our fingers and our toes. We gently come back into our bodies and into our space. Bring our knees into our chest and we'll roll over onto our side. And help ourselves up to seated. Wherever we land is absolutely perfect. We inhale, lifting our hands up to the sky, bringing them together at the top, and exhaling them down to our hearts with gratitude. There are so many things to be grateful for. Let's take note of a couple right now. I'm so grateful that you joined me today, allowed me to help you through your practice. I wish you all a very, very happy rest of your day. And make sure that as we deal with ourselves and with others, we err on the side of kindness. The light and the divine in me recognizes and respects the light and the divine in each of you. And when we are together, whether physically or virtually, we are one. Namaste.